can adjust a number of the properties that define how a panorama looks. In this example, I've loaded 3 images and aligned them using the controls on the Assistant tab. If I click Create Panorama, notice that there's a size and file format that's presented. The size is a suggested size. The format is the one that I've set up. In this example, the images that are being used are about 3,500 pixels high. So Hugin is downsizing the actual potential size of the panorama. The suggested size is the area inside all the crop lines you see here. If you want, you can change one or the other of these values, and the other will change accordingly, keeping the aspect ratio fixed. Hugin does a very good job of a suggested initial size for a panorama. However, it's not recommended that you downsize further because Hugin does not do a very good job in downsizing images. If you need to have a smaller height in your panorama, it would be better to use an external image editing product like Snagit. Let's make this larger at 3,500. Tab key. Notice how the width grew accordingly. I'm going to cancel this. If we go to the Crop tab while we're working in the Simple Interface, notice that there's information here about the boundaries of the current crop. This is what's known as an auto crop. When we use the Align button, it automatically determined the best cropping to keep the produced panorama within the boundaries of the image so that none of the background will show. You can change the crop values using these controls, or when you hover the mouse over the panorama image on the Crop tab, you see these white highlight zones. You can select one of those and move it around to change the crop. If you would like to apply more granular control over the panorama image appearance, you can do that by going to the Advanced Interface and then going to the Stitcher tab. If you jump back and forth between the Stitcher tab in the Advanced Interface or the Simple Interface Crop tab, you'll see that the values for the crop boundaries, in this case bottom at 3419, is the same as shown in these controls. Note that the canvas size here with a 5527 high, if we go back to Simple Interface, Assistant, and click Create Panorama, notice that that's about twice the value here. This is a optimized value for a typical panorama use. This is the actual size of the panorama canvas as depicted in this area here based on the actual size of the photo images being used in the panorama. If you want to create a panorama image to the highest resolution possible, you can click Calculate Optimal Size, and that will give you new dimensions for the panorama, which correspond to the actual size of the images being used. Of course, the file size of the resulting panorama will be much larger than the suggested size when you use the Create Panorama function in the Simple Interface. You can change values in any of these controls, but changing one of these values for width or height does not cause the other one to change. There's no fixed aspect function there. So you need to jump back and forth to the appearance of the panorama to make sure that you haven't messed up your cropping look. Since we've resized the actual panorama to its maximum size, we're going to click the Fit Crop to Image command button. Note how some of the crop values changed. You also have control over the type of processing that's applied to the images. If you open this drop down, you have a lot of different lens types to choose from. Rectilinear is the most common. It's the typical style of lens used with most cameras, like a 35mm single lens reflex. However, there are lens choices here for fisheye or Mercator and so forth. I find that working with rectilinear on my digital camera images works very well. These two values here tell you Hugin's estimate of the horizontal and vertical field of view for the current panorama. You can click the Calculate Field of View button to get a more exact reading. Once you've made adjustments using the Stitcher tab in the Advanced interface, you can execute a Create Panorama function by clicking the Stitch button in the lower right corner. Here you'll give your panorama a name and proceed as if you clicked the Create Panorama function in the Simple interface. I'm going to cancel this. Again, the values you see in these controls mirror what is displayed when you're looking at the Simple interface.